Imagine a world where one single paycheck was enough. In 1960, a typical father could walk into a factory or an office at 9 in the morning, head home at 5, and that was it. That one salary, just one, could buy a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb. It could put a brand new car in the driveway every few years. It could feed a family of 5, provide top-tier health care, and still leave enough in the jar for a 2-week summer vacation by the coast. Today, we are told we are more productive than ever. We have better technology, faster tools, and higher degrees. Yet 2 full-time salaries often struggle to achieve half of what that single 1960s paycheck did. So what happened? Did the world simply get too expensive? Or has the value of our time been stolen? Tonight, we're going back to the year 1960 to see exactly what one salary could buy. And the answer might actually make you angry. To understand our current struggle, we have to look at the golden age of the American middle class. In 1960, the United States was a manufacturing powerhouse. The post-war boom wasn't just a headline, it was a lifestyle. But the most shocking part of this era isn't the space race or the music, it's the math. There is a massive, great disconnect between what a human being's time was worth then and what it's worth now. If you talk to your grandparents, they aren't just being nostalgic when they talk about the good old days. They are remembering a specific economic window, a time when the American dream wasn't a catchphrase, it was a mathematical reality. But how? How could a single income, often from a blue-collar job, support an entire household? How did we go from one salary, one house, one family, to 2 salaries, 1 apartment, no savings? Let's look at the average Joe in 1960. The average annual salary was roughly $5,600. Now, before you dismiss that as pennies, stop. We have to look at what that $5,600 could actually do. In 1960, the average price of a new home, a real standalone house with a yard and a picket fence, was about $11,900. Do the math with me. That means a house cost just 2 times the average annual wage. Think about that for a second. If you made the average wage, you could buy a house for twice your yearly pay. Today, the average home price in the U.S. has soared to over $400,000, while the median household income hovers around $75,000. That is a ratio of over 5 to 1. In cities like Los Angeles or London, it's more like 10 or even 15 to 1. But it wasn't just the house. In 1960, a brand new chrome-plated car would set you back about $2,600. That's less than half of your yearly income. You could walk into a dealership, pick out a car with a V8 engine, and pay it off in 2 years without breaking a sweat. And the daily cost of living? A gallon of gas was 31 cents. A loaf of bread was 20 cents. A movie ticket? Less than $1. In 1960, money had a weight. It had a pull. When you earned $1, that dollar bought a significant chunk of the world around you. The typical 1960s family lived in a world of predictability. The father knew that if he stayed at his job, he would own his home by the time he retired. He knew his children would be better off than he was. It was a linear path upward. But why did that path suddenly start to crumble? To truly grasp the purchasing power of 1960, we have to look at the big three: housing, healthcare, and education. First, let's talk about the kitchen table. In 1960, a mother could go to the grocery store with a $20 bill and come back with enough bags to fill the trunk of the car. Groceries weren't a stressor, they were just a line item. But then, look at healthcare. In 1960, most people paid for doctor visits out of pocket. Why? Because a visit was affordable. Hospitals were community-focused, often non-profit. You didn't leave a 3-day stay with a $50,000 bill that took a decade to pay off. Health insurance was a bonus, not a desperate necessity for survival. And then there's the biggest shock of all: education. If our 1960s dad wanted his kids to go to a state university, the tuition was often a few $100s a year. A student could work a part-time job over the summer, painting houses or mowing lawns, and pay for their entire year of college in cash. No student loans, no 7% interest rates, no debt following you into your 40s. Because the big three were so cheap, the disposable income was massive. This was the era where the American consumer was born. People were buying the first color TVs, the first dishwashers, the latest gadgets, and they weren't buying them on high-interest credit cards. They were buying them with savings. The 1960s family wasn't rich in the way we think of billionaires today, but they were rich in stability. They had something we desperately crave: breathing room. They didn't need side hustles. They didn't need to drive Uber on the weekends. They didn't need to sell stuff on eBay to make the rent. One person worked, and the whole family thrived. Today, we have 100 times the computing power in our pockets than they used to send men to the moon. We can order anything in the world and have it delivered in 24 hours. We are technologically gods. But economically, we are running on a treadmill that keeps getting faster and faster. Most modern families require 2 full-time incomes just to stay afloat. And even then, 60% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. The one-salary dream has become a 2-salary struggle. If life seemed so affordable back then, if one man working at a local plant could provide a life of dignity for 5 people, what exactly changed? Was it just inflation? Is it because we buy too many lattes? Or is there something more calculated, something deeper in the very foundation of our global economy that changed the rules of the game while we weren't looking? Something happened in the early 70s that broke the link between how hard we work and how much we can buy. And once you see the charts, you can never unsee them. In the second half of this documentary, we are going to look at the smoking gun. We're going to look at the day the American dream was decoupled from the American paycheck. Why did houses become investments instead of homes? Why did college tuition skyrocket by 1,000%? And most importantly, is there any way to get that 1960s purchasing power back? The why is much more shocking than the what. To find the exact moment the one-salary dream began to die, we have to look at a year most people ignore: 1971. For decades, there was a simple, unspoken deal in the economy. If you worked harder and the company became more productive, you got a raise. The productivity line and the pay line moved together like 2 gears in a perfectly timed watch. But in 1971, something snapped. The United States officially left the gold standard. Money was no longer tied to a physical asset. it became fiat, backed only by a government promise. Suddenly, the floodgates for the money supply opened, and the currency began to thin out. Now I know what you're thinking. I'm here for a documentary, not an economics lecture. But stay with me, because this is the reason your rent is 50% of your paycheck. When you print more money, the money already in your pocket becomes less valuable. That's inflation. But here's the kicker. Inflation doesn't hit everything at once. It hits the things you need, homes, energy, and education first and hardest. Since 1971, the cost of living has skyrocketed, while real wages, what you can actually buy with an hour of your life, have essentially stood still. Let's go back to that house, the $12,000 suburban dream. In 1960, a house was a place to live. It was a utility. Today, a house is a financial asset. What changed? In the 70s and 80s, we stopped building enough homes in the places people actually wanted to work. We added layers of regulations, zoning laws, and not-in-my-backyard mentalities. But more importantly, we turned the housing market into a global casino. When interest rates were lowered and mortgage terms were extended from 15 years to 30 years, it didn't actually make houses more affordable. It just allowed people to borrow more. And when everyone can borrow more, they bid the prices higher and higher and higher. In 1960, you were competing with the guy down the street to buy a home. Today, you are competing with multi-billion-dollar hedge funds and private equity firms that buy up entire neighborhoods with cash, often before the for sale sign even hits the grass. That one salary didn't just lose value, it lost its seat at the table. It's not just the big stuff. It's the ghost expenses that didn't exist in 1960. If you look at a 1960s budget, it was incredibly simple. Housing, food, car, clothes. That was it. There was no internet bill, no $100 a month cell phone plan, no Netflix, no Spotify, no Amazon Prime. But even those are small potatoes compared to healthcare. In 1960, the average American spent about $150 a year on healthcare. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $1,500 today. But do you know what we actually spend? The average per-person cost is now over $13,000. We are paying nearly 10 times more for the right to stay alive than our grandparents did. And then there's the credential inflation. In 1960, you could get a solid middle-class job with a high school diploma. You could start as a mail clerk and end as a manager. Today, that same job requires a bachelor's degree, which costs $100,000 and 3 years of experience. We are paying a tax just to enter the workforce that the 1960s generation never had to face. The bar for entry to the middle class has been raised so high that many people spend the first 20 years of their working life just paying off the cost of getting the job. By the late 1970s, families realized the one-salary dream was slipping away. The solution? Women entered the workforce in record numbers. At first, this looked like a financial miracle. Suddenly, households had 2 paychecks. They were rich, right? Wrong. because everyone had two incomes. Everyone started bidding more for houses in good school districts. The price of everything rose to meet the new two-income standard. Economists call this the two-income trap. In 1960, if the father lost his job, the family had a safety valve. The mother could go to work to keep the family afloat. Today, both parents are already working at 100% capacity. If one loses a job, the family is 30 days away from a total collapse. We have more money coming in, but we have less security than ever before. We are working twice as much for a life that feels half as stable. So, was 1960 a paradise? No, it had its own deep flaws, social inequalities, and a lack of modern medicine. But we have to be honest about what we traded away. We traded time for stuff. We have better TVs, better phones, and better refrigerators. But we lost the economic breathing room that allowed a human being to support a family on 40 hours of work a week. The story of the last 60 years isn't just about rising prices. It's about the fact that our time, the actual hours of our lives, has been devalued. We are the most productive generation in human history, yet we are the most stressed about how to pay for a roof over our heads. The 1960 salary could buy a house because the system was designed to build a middle class. Today, the system is designed to extract value. We can't go back to 1960, but we can ask why the American dream became a global struggle. And perhaps by understanding what we lost, we can start demanding an economy that values people over portfolios once again. Because if one salary could buy all that in 1960, imagine what we should be able to afford today. Thanks for watching. If this made you rethink your bank account, hit the subscribe button. And let me know in the comments, do you think we'll ever see that kind of purchasing power again? See you in the next one.